Okay, so when you think of Belgium, what's the first thing that pops into your head? Probably chocolates, right? Or waffles? Maybe those incredible old towns? But what if I told you that behind all that charm, this tiny country has one of the most brutal, intense, and, frankly, world-changing histories in all of Europe?
For centuries, this was literally Belgium's nickname. Historians called it that because, well, look at where it is on a map. It was the perfect stage for massive empires. We're talking the French, the Spanish, the Dutch, the Germans, to just show up and fight their wars. Belgium's fate, it was almost never in its own hands.
And this really gets to the heart of Belgium's story, this crazy paradox. How can a country so small on the map end up playing such a massive role in global conflicts and politics? That's exactly the question we're going to unpack today.
So let's dive into this long struggle. You see, Belgium's location made it this strategic crossroads, this prize that every major power in Europe absolutely had to have.
I mean, just think about the laundry list of powers that have ruled this place. You've got the Romans marching through, then you have centuries of Spanish rule. After that, the Dutch take a turn, and yeah, even Napoleon's French Empire got a piece of the action. It was just this relentless cycle of being controlled by someone else.
But you know, after centuries of being a pawn in other people's games, something had to give. The people finally decided they'd had enough, and that single decision, well, it lit the fuse for a revolution.
And this is the year it all kicked off, 1830. A popular uprising explodes in the streets of Brussels, a full-on revolution against the Dutch king who was in charge at the time. That desire for their own nation had finally boiled over.
And you know what? After a fierce, determined fight, they actually did it. They won. A brand new independent nation was created. For the very first time, Belgium belonged to the Belgians. But, as we're about to see, its biggest tests were still to come.
So this newfound freedom, it was about to be tested in the most brutal way you can possibly imagine. That old nickname, the battlefield of Europe, was about to make a terrifying comeback, but this time on a global scale. World War I starts. Germany invades Belgium, thinking it's going to be a cakewalk, just a quick march on their way to France. But they were so wrong. The Belgians put up this incredible, fierce resistance, and it actually slowed the entire German war machine down, changing the course of the war.
And then came one of the absolute darkest moments in the history of warfare. In the Belgian town of Ypres, the Germans unleashed chlorine gas for the first time ever on a massive scale. Thousands of soldiers died horribly in the mud. The country was just devastated.
It's almost hard to wrap your head around this. Just 26 years after the absolute horror of World War I, it happened all over again. In 1940, German forces just swept through the country, and Belgium was right back where it started, under occupation.
But this time, the fight went underground. The Belgian resistance became one of the most active, one of the most effective networks in all of Europe. These were ordinary people sabotaging Nazi supply lines, gathering crucial intel for the Allies, and risking their lives to help prisoners and downed pilots escape.
So the war finally ends, but the fighting, it wasn't over. A huge political crisis erupted, and it was all centered on the one person who was supposed to be the symbol of unity for the entire nation, their king.
Yeah, King Leopold III faced a storm of criticism for what he did during the Nazi occupation. A lot of people accused him of collaborating with the enemy, or at the very least, of totally failing his people. The entire country was split right down the middle over his leadership.
This whole thing got so heated that the nation did something pretty incredible. They held a referendum, a straight-up public vote on whether their king should stay or go. And it was ridiculously close. But in the end, the pressure was just too much. Leopold III was forced to step down. I mean, how often does that happen? A king getting removed by a popular vote. It's almost unheard of.
Okay, so having survived invasions, revolutions, and this massive identity crisis, Belgium picked itself up from the rubble and found a totally new reason for being. It decided to take its greatest weakness and turn it into its new identity.
And what a transformation it was. Today, Brussels is the capital of the European Union and the headquarters of NATO. And here's the really brilliant part. Because Belgium had suffered so much from war, it had this unique moral authority. I mean, who better to host the institutions designed for peace than the nation that had so often paid the price of war?
And that comparison just says it all, doesn't it? Belgium somehow managed to turn its historical curse into a modern blessing. The nation that was once defined by constant war is now defined by diplomacy. It went from being Europe's battleground to being its meeting ground.
So, as we wrap this up, I want to leave you with this one big idea. The story of Belgium. It's just this incredible lesson in resilience. It really makes you wonder, right? How does a nation, or for that matter, how does any of us, take a history filled with so much trauma and turn it into a source of real strength and purpose? It's a huge question, and I think Belgium's history gives us a pretty powerful answer.